she has a wealth of wisdom to share with us as well.
Yeah.
She has a story that points to something, that leads to experiences, that leads to revelation from God, renewing of the mind, transformation of life. And I really wanted to give her an opportunity to share that and then bring us into a time of devotion with the Lord where we can process as well. So why don't you guys give Cassie now one more big...
softening through these testimonies, through this time today, God. That our hearts would not be callous to you and your voice. In Jesus' name.
Now we can start? Yeah, okay. So, I don't know, like I went today and I was like, I really want an activity at this retreat. Like, please give me something to do because I like having activities, I like having tasks. And he was like, well, do you want to preach? I was like, well, yeah, of course. And he was like, well, do you want to do like a co-session? And I stopped and I was like, that actually fits right along with what God's doing in my life. You know, focus not so much on me, but others around me. Where can I use my strengths to partner with someone's weaknesses? Where can I help? And so I was like, I for sure want to help Amber. I want to give her some of my tips and wisdom from the past year of this crazy journey. And so, you know, I had her go first so that I could support her through my session and make her feel comfortable. And so today, like, prayed about it, clear cut, definite message is identity. That's been my life, and God's transformed my identity the past about year, and so I knew that's what I wanted to talk about. And so I'm going to share 3 big pieces of identity that I've been learning through this semester of school. I'm going to share kind of like how I got to that point where I'm here now and how it all just kind of ties together. So quick background on Cassie, crash course, because this could take hours. You know, home life was rough. I mean, not as rough as per se Amber's, but it wasn't great. I mean, I had mental illness for 8 years, and seriously, you don't get mental illness if you have 5-star parents. There has to be a gap in your environment somewhere. There has to be a lacking somewhere. So even though my parents sacrificed the world for me, there was a lack somewhere, and I didn't feel like I was in control of anything, and I didn't feel like I had, you know, I didn't feel like I could control my environment. And so at a very, very young age, I started controlling my eating. So I was 4th grade, 2003, controlling what I eat. As a 4th grader, choosing not to feed myself because it was the only way I can control my environment. It's the only way I could feel okay during the day. You know, and then that stopped working. So I upped the ante, and I started self-harming. And this went on for years. This was an 8-year process. Even got to the point of multiple suicide attempts. Because I couldn't fix the chaos in my life. I couldn't verbalize my needs. I couldn't be like, I'm not okay. I need something to change. I need something to fix. I couldn't get out of my box. Luckily, like through complete naivety, a family from church invited me to live with them. They thought like, she just needs a little love. She just needs a little, you know, some hugs in the morning. They realized in about 2 or 3 hours that this was going to be a long process. I ended up being with them for 4 months. And they started providing that environment of control and safety. And so I didn't have to start controlling myself because they're like, that's not okay. Like, we're not going to allow that. They gave me structure. You know, when I did something wrong, I actually got a consequence for it, which was like mind-blowing. I was 18 at this point. And being with that family started this whole journey, started this whole process. You know, that's my first recovery. That's 2011. So now we're here. So the first part of my whole recovery has been becoming stable. I don't, like, God for me, like, He couldn't work on my identity if I couldn't even make it through an afternoon. If I was trying to just fight for my life, He couldn't help show me who I'm supposed to be. I was just trying to get through school. I was just trying to get through, graduation. So the first part, up until about last spring, when I was in the school, ministry at church, it was all about becoming stable, facing triggers, facing pain. And I knew at that point that I was good with mental illness because of various life events. My uncle ended up killing himself. He was my recovery buddy. He was supposed to be there to the end with me. And I didn't ever relapse during that time. I got kicked out of multiple homes and never relapsed during that time. So God showed me, yep, Cassie, you're good. You're not going to fall back into this hell. You're not going to fall back into this pain. So He was able to start chipping away at identity. And it's perfect timing. I got God's call. Become a strong, confident, independent woman that can stand on her own 2 feet. God calls me a snow owl. Says, go fly. Go spread your influence everywhere. And this was around the time where I got connected with someone through our church. And she gave me a little space to start helping her with her small group on Sunday mornings. And then she, during the summer, was like, hey, I'm in charge of all these ministries of church. I need help. This is chaos. You have all these different things. Please help me. So I've had this year with her, an amazing internship, to learn all this stuff about identity. But it all started by building a foundation of stability and being able to make it through the day. Through the help of the family I lived with, I graduated high school 5 months early, moved on to campus a month later because I thought that was a great idea, and got so tested at school, and then I paused school, went to the school ministry at church, and truly started finding myself. God started giving me promises, hopes, dreams, and visions. And the thing about this that was different was I knew I was going to be alive long enough to see this happen. I knew I was going to be alive to see these things come true. I used to never plan my future because I wasn't sure if I was going to get to that afternoon. I wasn't sure if I was going to get through those 5 minutes. So now I'm alive, I'm strong, I'm stable, and these things are going to happen, and I'm going to see people find freedom. Whether they've been through mental illness or not, people are going to find a true level of freedom because they don't need to live a life that has sadness, that has pain. You don't have to be mentally ill to have an okay life. Even if you are mentally fine, you can still have more joy. You can still have more freedom. There's still a greater level that God wants you to experience and have. Yeah. And that's what I'm fighting for. That's what I've chosen to give my life to, is to let people have a greater life and joy. Because I don't want to see people ever sad, ever have pain. I know it's going to happen. So then, I was trying to pray about this thing, and this is the big tweak for me. So you still have pain, but there's a but. And I'm going to get to that. So the first thing, though, I started, therapy a year ago, because, I had to admit to myself, oh my gosh, my life is in shambles again. I kind of need to go back. And so my therapist, she gave me, the analogy of identity as a circle. And so this is what God has been showing me. So we have a circle, and this is your identity. For me, what prevented that circle from coming up was naivety. Some of us have never gone through this process. Some of us have never gone to God and been like, who am I? Yeah. What makes me me? Some of us have never tried this. I did it. My identity for mental illness was mentally ill. The choices I made was out of brokenness and pain and shame and anger and hurt. Abandonment. That's what I lived that's how I made my choices. So when someone said hi to me, I made the choice, don't trust them, they're going to leave, they're going to hurt, they're going to cause more pain, so I crashed that friendship before it could even start. Because that was the identity I was living in. That's how I made all my choices. People be like, hey, you want to go on this vacation? I'm like, no, I'm not going to be here long enough for that. I'm not going to be here in 6 months. I'm not going to plan for that. So through this year, God has been, showing me a new identity. He's been chipping away that circle for me. He's been giving me an opportunity to learn that with my internship through the church. You know, a huge thing that can hinder this though is you get these black spots. And these black spots are unforgiveness. And I don't know about you, but having a bunch of black spots in the thing you're trying to create doesn't really work. I mean, for me, that's kind of hard to build on. It's really hard for God to kind of even have a say in if there's a bunch of unforgiveness and bitterness towards people. The biggest thing was my family. I mean, I blamed them. I was like, dude, the family from church that had me for 4 months got me to get into therapy and get started on recovery. I'm like, you had me for 17 years. It was a hard spot to be in. And, oh my gosh, epic family restoration. Now I've had my parents back for a year and a couple months. And I started by forgiving them. Okay, Mom, you couldn't do what I needed to do. That's fine. I found it somewhere else. But it's not your fault. You tried. You weren't taught. You weren't trained. Like the saying, it takes a tribe to raise a child. Like, honestly, me, it would take 2 or 3 tribes. Like, I know I'm a handful. Like, I know I'm a hard case. You know? So it's not holding that against my parents. If somebody lacked, you can't hold that against them. You can't pin that on them. They lack. There's a reason why. I mean, I lack in so many areas because of the mental illness. And if someone held that against me, it would have made everything worse. So I've had to go through and be like, okay, God, how do I forgive? How do I let go? How do I be like, Dad, I know that you tried in your backwards way, but it wasn't good enough. How do I get rid of these black spots? And it's through the choice. It's through saying, God, okay, I forgive them. God, give me a different perspective. No one's perspective is going to satisfy except God's. I would go around to people after people being like, can you give me a different perspective? It won't satisfy. It won't scratch that itch that you have. It won't fix the confusion. What fixes it is God. God being like, this is why. This is the reason. He's the only one that's going to be able to get you to calm down enough and start to change that perspective. People aren't going to do that. I tried it for so long, and they fail you. Even if they're your bestest of friends, they will have a lack somewhere, and all that trust stuff will come right back up again, and it will ruin a perfectly good friendship because you just couldn't recognize or didn't recognize that they just have a humanly lacking that only God can fill to the fullest. So, you know, I gave my parents a chance. Instead of condemning every word out of their mouth, I let it have honor in my life. I let it reign in my life. And I called them every day after work. It sucked. I was like, I don't want to do this. This is just dumb. Like, this is just going to be a migraine. But I called them every day after work. And then my dad started calling me. He started being like, how's it going, Cassie? And then this summer, we'd hang out every single Saturday. And by Wednesday, he'd call me with our weekend plans. He'd go through the newspaper. He'd go through, on Google, because I got him, taught him how to use the internet. And it was because I submitted myself to God. This is not my parents. It's trusting God that God will lead me. It's not trusting people. It's giving my parents a chance to actually have a voice in my life. I don't agree with some of the things they say, but I still honor their words.
That's good.
And through this process, I've been able to erase the black spots, and I've been able to go back through the friendships. Because for me, if I'm able to forgive my parents, then I can forgive anybody at this point. And it doesn't matter what anybody else does to me. And so then, through that process, now my circle is whole again. But you have to allow God to bring you through that process. And it's hard. And it's painful. And I never want to go through it again. But the outcome is incredible. You guys can contest to that. the freedom on the other side is like, why didn't we do this sooner? So the first key that God has been showing me for identity is where do you get, let's see how to spell this. It's where do you get your energy source from? I know for me, if you are tired, you can't do much. You will be extremely affected. Your choices will be hindered. You know, you're not going to want to do as much because you're tired. And so it's like, do you get your energy from being around people like this? Or is it by being in the cabin alone? Now, talking to Victoria, there's a very clear distinction. Every day you need time with God. Every day you need time at home to dwell alone. That is just a standard. That is just set. This is beyond that. This is where do you get your energy after you're with God and after you have your time at home. I ran myself to the ground this semester. I'm like, let's take 17 credits and let's start a website and let's have 2 jobs and an internship. Oh, but let's fill every blank space I have on my calendar with an activity and a person. I crashed and burned and fell on my face. And I was like, well, God, people are my energy, so why wouldn't I give them the free spaces I have? And it's like, well, no, some of those free spaces have to be for God. You know, you have to have time at home or you're just at home, being in your dwelling spot, resting. And then beyond that, if there's time after that, then you go find your people. Or then you go have your introvert time. Then you go be by yourself. Then you go find an activity. When you are energized, you are able to have enough energy to build that house, to pack your stuff, to let your house be renovated. I mean, try to build a house tired. I mean, it's probably going to take forever. It's probably going to look messy. Your eyes are going to be busy. Like, it's big, especially with recoveries. You're exhausted. I mean, emotions and panic attacks and anxiety and triggers, they are exhausting. They wipe you out. You need time going through things like this retreat. I know some of us are tired, and you think it's because you're up till 2 in the morning. Well, here's another option. It's because God's renovating your life, and it's exhausting, and because it takes a lot of work for stuff to be moved in your life. It might not just because you went to bed at 2 in the morning. It could be because God is doing a major work in your life. And you need to give yourself that time to get energized.
That's good.
So, the next 2 pieces that kind of go hand in hand. It's your strengths and your passions. So I see this kind of as walking. You know, let's say strength is your left foot and passion is your right foot. They're very, very similar. They're also very different. You kind of need both to walk. So, for me, if you always look at what you're bad at, if you always are consumed with what you can't do, you're going to feel like you can't do anything. You're going to feel useless. You're going to feel wore down. Challenge. Look at your strengths. What are you good at? What can you do? What when you put your hand on it goes well? Other thing to that, though, is passions. What do you want to do? What does your heart cry for? My heart cries for mental health advocacy. I started a website. Realized I needed some strengths in that. So then I was able to go to people, hire consultants, find networkers, find people to build those strengths. Some strengths you're never going to need. I'm not going to need to know how to do calculus. Like, I don't need to invest my time into some math lesson. Like, I'm good. It's not a strength. It doesn't need to be a strength. But if you only do one or the other, you're going to miss out. This is like, I don't really see I have that much time because I have a lot I have to do. So I like to do like little kind of, okay, God, what's a little shortcut in this adventure, you know? So you save time by doing both at the same time. Because, okay, so Dave wanted me to quick share this, but I have an amazing event in May with my website. And I'm renting out a movie theater in Minneapolis. I'm going to be speaking, a Q&A session, all this stuff. I found some major weaknesses in my life that I needed to work on. And I wouldn't have known they were there until I went after my passion, until I started letting God move into my life. I wouldn't have known I needed to learn how to make contracts and have business meetings and be all official. I never thought that was going to be in my life. But because I found my passion, because I started seeing what God wants me to do, I was able to partner that with my strengths, and they were able to come together. And you're able to start running them like faster and faster and faster. But you have to have energy to move. Otherwise, you're just going to be like exhausted. So this is all great and dandy, but where's God? Like, where's the tie-in to like everything? Like, we know where to get our energy. Yeah, strength and passion. We're doing great. But where's God in all this? Where's Jesus? Where's the reason for even trying?
Yeah.
So through my website, through this identity thing, God has given me crazy analogies. You know, so this is mind blowing. So God is the center of our circle. And this is the analogy he gave me. You know the angel on one shoulder, the devil on the other shoulder? And I always look back and forth for your wisdom. So God showed me, no. I'm your center. I'm in front of you. I know about me. I know I make impulsive decisions, so I forget to look left or right. So if God's your center, he's in front of you, you can't forget to ask him. You can't forget to go, well, God, what's your wisdom? Because he's right in front of you. Wherever you turn, wherever you go, God is your center. You're going to remember to go to him for wisdom because he's in your eyesight.
Yeah, that's good.
He revolves around everything. You know, I saw the picture of him holding out his hand. You know, I hold on to his hand. We go in this together. And I'm able to check back with him. Okay, God, what should I do? What can I do? You know, and I don't know about you, but having a father in front of me always nodding or encouraging me or guiding me makes life a bajillion times easier, and it makes it way, way nicer. You know, like last night, so much stuff got stirred up, and I'm like, I'm going to go home and forget this, like Dave find a new speaker. But I was like, hey, no, God, I can't do that. Like, I have to, you know, grow. I have to be challenged. And because God was my center, I was able to not see the rest of the chaos. I was able to look at him and be reminded of him. And when you have that relationship with God, all I have to do now, because it's been over a year, is be like, hey, God, take over my vision, and I don't see anything else except God. And God becomes my 360, and everything else fades away.
Yeah.
Because he starts at the center. So that's cool. Then where does Jesus fit into all this? Like, how does this all work together? Okay, that's pretty not artistic. So, whatever. I'm failing my drawing class, so that's fine. So this is actually something that I'm learning with my leader person at church. This is what she's been teaching me. So Jesus, the firm foundation. Life is going to be hard. Life is going to throw you down sometimes. But if Jesus is our firm foundation, if he's underneath us, when we fall on our face, it's not going to hurt as much. It's not going to be falling on the cement. It's going to be falling on a mattress. I have noticed that my life is, filled with disappointments. Every day. But I've realized once Jesus is my firm foundation, I don't even notice these things anymore. I don't notice when I'm disappointed. I don't notice when things don't go the way I thought. Because Jesus is my firm foundation, and God is my center, and nothing else really matters. I'm going after my strengths and passions, and everything else in my life follows suit with that. Yeah. And if he's able to be there, you will not be shaken. Yeah. Go, vision this construction set. You have, 5 feet of wet concrete. If you step into the wet concrete, and that's your firm foundation, you're solid in Jesus, you will not be shaken when life hits you in the face. You won't move because you're rooted so strongly. Things that felt like tornadoes are going to be breezes.
That's good, yes.
So how do we get between the two? How does the connection this is going to be rough. So how does the connection come though? My favorite verse, very, very it's in the recovery kind of world.
It's amazing.
Thanks. So, this is kind of like the recovery symbol, but Hebrews 6:19. I have a hope as an anchor for my soul. We get anchored to let's just be real here. I've had so many things, but every night after I start my day with Jesus, I'm like, hey, it's all for you. I did that this morning. I pray, I dance, I worship. I give him as my foundation. I remind myself of where everything stands, and the day fits well.
Yeah.
I'm able to do everything. I'm able to have my business meetings. I'm able to meet my people, work on my website. I'm able to go to school, do my church internship, have my 2 jobs. Because everything is kind of aligned. And the amazing thing about this analogy is it's accessible to everybody. It's accessible to Dave, who's done this for years, and it's accessible to someone who's never done this. Because there's always a starting point with this. Whether you're starting from scratch and drawing your sugar for the first time, or you're building a new giant anchor because your foundation got exploded. There's always something that you can do with this. And that's what I love about this. And it's not just for the mentally ill people. It doesn't exclude people. It's literally for everybody to get started with.
Yeah.
So 10 minutes is not going to be enough. I know that. But like, what is your passion? What has God called you to? What are you supposed to transform? What in your life do you put your hand to and see miracles happen? This event really isn't that practical at all. But everything I just touch, poof, it's magic. It happens. And it's like, this shouldn't be happening. You shouldn't be able to put a 400 people event together within, a month or 2. Like, that's not practical. But God has given me every piece of this event. Gave me the location. I just got the film rights. I got graphic designer and videographer and t-shirts and all this stuff that I didn't even know really existed. And it's because, I used my strengths and my passions. I started running towards this. And I started working. I've run towards other things. I've tried to write a book so many times about my story. It hasn't worked. It hasn't been the right season. It hasn't been the right time. Well, I just finished my first book. Wrote it in like a month. Right, wrote it in like a month. Because I changed. I tried something else. I started running towards a different door.
Yeah.
So it might not be that it's not your strength or passion. It could just be the timing of it.
Yeah.
So you might have to put it on your bookshelf. Those books, I don't know, my sister, I don't get her, but she'll go to the library and get 20 books. And I'm like, what are you doing? And she's like, these are all first at a time. I read one at a time. They're all happen. They're all good. They're gonna work. So it's just you might have projects, you might have things. They might not be for right now. It doesn't mean they're trashed.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean they're gonna, have to be late by the due date for book. I don't go to the library, but you're not gonna run out of time to return them. They're all gonna be completed in God's season. So this is your 10 minutes. Hopefully, we'll just pray God expands it to maybe break down the naivety. Maybe work through some unforgiveness and clean up some black spots. Maybe get God as your center. Find hope for your soul. Get Jesus as your firm foundation. And I can be up here. I'll be, I don't know, probably doing something. But I will pray for you guys. I can help you with whatever. I can expand upon. We have 10 minutes. What is God doing? What is God saying? What does God want to do today? What is His goal? I have 20 goals of what I want to do. But when I start on God's goal, what He wants to do, it goes a lot faster. So I challenge you. You probably will list what you want to do right now. I challenge you, throw it out. Ask God, okay, what should I focus on? 10 minutes, what should I be consumed with? And really, if you set your expectation that high, you will probably get through that goal. You'll probably get a decent chunk together, or at least an outline for that. Because when God's there, stuff moves fast. And He's able to solidify. He's outside of time.
Come on, give her a hand, guys. So 10 minutes, Cassie, what are the 3 things that we could focus on again? First one is, if you've never thought about who I am, you haven't addressed that naivety, go for that. Second thing, Cassie, what is it?
You can do unforgiveness.
Unforgiveness, you could address that. Or third thing, focus on What are my strengths? What are my passions? You know, and begin to reflect on those things. So take about, we'll do 8 to 10 minutes or so, and why don't you guys just go to that activation sheet and just begin to process through some of that, and then we'll call it good for this morning's session.
Can you